whistle that annoying tune.
I know. I usually drop the long boys. But I gotta do something else. The algorithm gonna do me like Regina King did Buddy in This Christmas. Figure I'll try something a little shorter. Sometimes you just gotta
switch it up on a bitch.
Thank y'all for taking on this ride with me. Yeah. You know what? Here go 2 more for y'all.
Yeah. Theme songs, my nigga. Everybody loves a good theme song. I think my favorite might be One on One. Not the second one though. Not the remix. Got a lot of favorites. I think they all do a good job telling you the vibe of each show, what type of energy to be on. Oh, cool, new regular show.
What the hell is that?
Nice, I'm all in. But if I'm being honest, there's one perfect one. Let me be the first to tell you, the Ed, Edd n Eddy theme song is genius.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
Alright, my bad. Let's get to the theme song.
Play song.
I kind of wrote this video with the understanding that everybody watching it has seen Ed, Edd n Eddy before, but I guess if you haven't, 3 kids, all named Ed, dumb smart asshole. Huh. But honestly, to get right to it, you didn't even need me to say that. The Ed, Edd n Eddy theme song is the greatest cartoon theme song ever because it tells you every single thing you need to know about the main characters and their relationships to one another. And it does it without a single line of dialogue. Unless you count their names, but I think that's stupid. I think it's a little comparable to another theme song that I love because I fucking love the American Dad theme. There's this brilliant shot in the HD opening where Stan goes through every family member and it tells us his relationship with them seamlessly. We know that Haley disagrees with him, but he loves her anyway, which is shown through the hug. We know that Steve looks up and admires him. The little worried look on his face too, it can kind of imply just how complicated their relationship can be. We know that Francine is always watching his back, and I guess they have a fish too, I don't know. Even when Roger pops in and Stan gets rid of him, it lets us know exactly how he feels about Roger. We get how Stan feels about everybody in his house, but, and understandably so, we don't have time to fully understand how each one of these characters feel about each other. How do Haley and Steve feel about each other, or Steve and Francine? And admittedly, I can understand why they felt like they didn't have to do that. The show is called American Dad. It's about Stan and his view on his family. But I think the cool thing about the Ed, Edd n Eddy intro is that it pulls that exact thing off crazy well. It starts with all 3 of them falling over and making a fool out of themselves. Eddie always has to be the center of attention, so he makes sure that he's the first one that we see. He shows off and tries to act cool for attention. This nigga like licking the floor and shit. Nigga said, hang loose. Double D slowly scoots away, which is on brand because in the show, whenever Eddie gets like this, he don't want nothing to do with it. But he's also nervous and shy. Look at him in the next shot. He's about to have a fucking anxiety attack. Ed notices and follows. Because again, like in the show, he's completely fascinated by everything Double D does. When Eddie notices that nobody's paying him any mind, he freaks out, moving the camera over to show all 3 of them. He nudges Double D, trying to get him out of his comfort zone. Ed's strong ass, not even knowing his strength, just fucking knocks both of them out of frame. And once he notices, he moves the camera over. But now it's crooked to show how carefree he is, real imprecise, messy. Eddie chases Ed because he made him eat shit. Ed thinks it's a game. Eddie's dead ass serious. So now we also got their relationship in it too, because this is literally how they act in the big picture show. Double D stands up, dusts himself off, and straightens the camera, showing that he's the organized one, the one with the OCD. Everything's got to be clean and tidy. But of course, Ed and Eddie playing too much is his downfall. Side note, but has anyone noticed that the instrumental practically says Double D when he pops up too? And Double D, who's been anxious throughout the entire intro, finally faints since he was gasping for fucking air this whole time. He faints, and after that, after it is way too late, Ed and Eddie finally pay attention to his emotions. Think about how, like, in the show, right? These 2 niggas would cut up and act all kinds of crazy. They would, like, never chill the fuck out, no matter how much Double D asked. This nigga gotta yell at them to get his point across.
touch me!
They were ripping band-aids off and shit. They don't listen or pay attention to him until he does something that they literally can't ignore, like passing the fuck out. So, okay, we got messy, strong, carefree, playful. We got precise, anxious, shy. And we got loud, hot-headed, cocky, insecure.
What the fuck?
This shit is crazy. I still don't know how they did this. How is it that we understand every single character combination in just 30 seconds? Eddie and Ed, Eddie and Double D, Ed and Double D. All of these characters, all of these relationships are explained to us brilliantly with no dialogue or help from the lyrics. It's just the character animation. And much love to the late Paul Boyd for animating it. An amazing character animator who passed away in 2007. You can tell he really had a talent and an eye for detail. So Ed, Edd n Eddy ran for 130 episodes, 4 specials in a movie. And its legacy is forever cemented. There hasn't been a cartoon before or since that is exactly like it. That gives off that same feeling of being meticulously crafted, and this theme song is just another example of that. It's amazing the type of shit you're able to get off in 30 seconds, bro, I'll tell you.
Anyway,
that's what this theme song means to me. I'm curious what it means to all of you. Y'all think I'm right, or am I just talking a whole load of cap? Let me know. Also, you know what? Let me know if like this shorter format works for y'all. If you want to see me try more stuff like this, more loosies. Well, I can do them, man. I don't care. Fucking rents, dude. I'm fucking drowning in student loans and shit. Help me, nigga. Somebody help me. Fuck.
First things first, I pop.
Bro, after I wrote this whole thing, I found a comment, the top fucking comment on the upload of the theme song saying exactly what I just did, but way shorter. So why the fuck did I even make this shit?
Freaks all the honeys, dummies.
I can't quite.
What's it jammed into my back? I'm stuck.
So am I.
Dog!
Kids! Kids!
There is no denying how important The Simpsons is to me at this point. I start every video off with a clip, just each of these is just packed with references. If that's not how you feel about the show, you feel me, like that's cool, just don't come around me, alright? I'm sick of negative energy.
That's true, but he shouldn't say it.
You niggas is bad vibes, man, I'm telling you, bad vibes. The Simpsons movie is somewhere in my top 30 animated movies. It fluctuates. Some days it's as good as Ratatouille for me. Some days I look at it as fondly as I did a Goofy movie before I immortalized my thoughts on it in 480p. Sorta like Mike, but y'all clearly don't give a fuck about that.
At times like this, I guess all you can do is laugh.
Nah, I mean, honestly, I'm old enough now, right, to seeing some flaws in it. Like some things that I wish they would have ended up doing differently. But point still stands, there isn't a single second of this film that I do not enjoy. Everything about it is fun, sweet, or fucking gorgeous. I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking that it was the best movie of my life. But little did I know, it was the best movie of my life so far. But one thing that has always remained constant for me, no matter how much time seems to pass, is that it's always had my favorite scene in the history of The Simpsons. No matter what I see from the classic era or the newer stuff, nothing truly makes me feel quite the same amount of emotion as I do when Marge left Homer.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
You haven't seen a Simpsons movie in years and don't even remember this scene. I gotta fucking do everything around this bitch, man. Fuck! If you don't remember the movie, here's a quick recap of how we got here. The town of Springfield gets put into a dome after Homer pushes the town's pollution over the edge. The entire town blames Homer and his family by association, and they escape to Alaska. In Alaska, the Simpsons hear that Springfield, the town that they grew up in, filled with all of the people that they love, is going to be destroyed. But Homer doesn't care. And Marge, she just can't believe that the man that she's loved for all of these years could possibly be so selfish, and it all results in Homer receiving this tape. A moment that I think is on par with, or even better than, some of the most analyzed scenes in the entire series.
I've always stood up for you. People point out your flaws. I always say, well, sometimes you have to stand back to appreciate a work of art.
Way back.
I really love the staging of this animation. Marge's character animation isn't stiff. She still feels alive without making any sudden movements. I love how she just like looks off into space here, almost as if she's literally looking around, searching for the answer to her own question.
Lately, what's keeping us together is my ability to overlook everything you do. And I overlook these things because...
Because?
No other show is animated like this, man. It's so fucking cool. The most important thing about what really sells this scene has to be the performance from Julie Kavner as Marge. We've seen Marge angry, hurt, annoyed, but we've never really seen Marge this defeated, this drained. The vocal performance here sounds like she's cried every single tear that she could. Every single shred of hope and optimism is just gone. I remember listening to the commentary for this movie, back when I was a kid on a DVD, and hearing about what exactly went into getting Julie to do that performance. It never really seemed like the kind of thing you just nail in one take.
Julie did more takes on this video than, because somebody called me today and accusingly say, is it true that it was 100 takes? And it was so much more than 100 takes.
I think so, yeah.
And what happened was that the last time she did it, she actually did go through a snowstorm in Michigan to get to the recording studio, and I think, was, a little worn down.
And because she was so worn down that it sort of fed into the way...
There was an anger that was seeping through.
So I'm leaving with the kids to help Springfield. And we're never coming back. And to prove to myself that this is the end, I taped this over our wedding video. Goodbye, Homer.
Why do birds suddenly appear?
Then, of course, there's the decision to end this sequence with Close to You by the Carpenters. That's possibly the best possible way that they could have ever sold this emotion. It really is one of those things that hits harder when you're really engulfed in the series. The Simpsons movie was a movie that went through a lot of changes, a lot of morphing and manipulating. They had a lot of things to consider when putting it together. They originally wanted the villain to be Hank Scorpio, the Hammock District plug, but casual fans didn't know who he was. That's why the villain in this movie is played by the same guy, but he's just a different design. Any Simpsons fan knows that their Schwarzenegger parody is called McBain, but it's just President Schwarzenegger here because that's who everybody knows. They wanted to make Milhouse Lisa's main love interest in the film, but casual fans weren't even aware that he had a crush on her, which I don't even really think this one matters because he still hits on her anyway in this movie.
That's for selling out your beliefs.
But I think my point is that they made a lot of changes to consider the casuals, the people with just a passing knowledge of this franchise and the characters, so that they feel welcomed and they don't feel alienated when they sit down and try to watch a movie about this franchise. And arguably, you could say that because of them doing all of that, that they ended up with the second highest grossing 2D animated film in history. Only second to a movie that has been re-released a few times, so there you go. Saying that to say, out of all of these things to leave in for fans, I always felt like this song was the perfect choice because it's a song that people that care about these characters really associate with them. We first hear it in the season 2 classic, The Way We Was. Homer hears it on the radio right before he meets Marge for the first time, but it doesn't even mean anything until he finally sees a face to put to those words. Why it ruins him when Artie Ziff sings it to Marge at prom.
Why do birds suddenly appear? Every time you're near.
Gotta get out of here.
This is the song that Homer heard in his head the very moment that he fell in love with Marge. And that's why he also hears it here when he feels like he's lost her forever.
And we wanted to use Close to You because it was their song on the show when we saw Homer and Marge meet in high school. And even though, it's a little bit of a 70s pop song and a little silly, it's something that means the world to Homer, and if it works, I think that's why.
I think that this scene is a testament to how good The Simpsons is. It's such a status quo show, but they always kind of get away with making us believe the impossible. You know nothing is gonna change. Lisa can't have friends, Homer can't stop drinking, Maggie can't talk. Nothing learned in any of these episodes is going to alter how any of these characters talk to each other next year. But what makes the show so good is how we go in knowing this, but they still manage to make us feel every single emotion that they want us to feel. There was no way that they were going to kill their main character off in the 11th episode of their second season, but they packed that episode with so much weight that I always audibly gasped during this moment. There is no way that they'll send a principal secondary character to jail for attempted murder, but every single time I watch Who Shot Mr. Burns, I still think that shit looks steep for Smithers, bro. And there is absolutely no way that Marge is going to leave Homer 400 episodes and 18 seasons deep into one of the most profitable franchises in American history. But for just that second, for just that small moment, you fucking believe it. I mean, shit. At least I do.
And on top of which, like I said, it has, unlike doing 22 minutes, and the scope of it, especially Marge leaving Homer, and then at the very end, them coming back together, and I got really touched by it, even a little choked up when Homer and Marge got back together.
Oh, good.
And it's like you don't necessarily always have that time on the TV show.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what amazed me the most in watching it, is I saw so much great funny stuff just go out, and I didn't miss it. I didn't say, I go, well, I would have liked to have seen it, but it didn't detract from the film at all. I did follow the story. It kept me interested. It held me, and the emotional part was really the anchor to the whole thing.
I can't believe we're paying to see something we get on TV for free. If you ask me, everybody in this theater is a giant sucker. Especially you!
If you're around my age or older, you might remember when Fox premiered a new animated series about 12 years ago called Bob's Burgers. This was also you back then if you were my age or older.
I'll give him a week.
I'll give him 11 minutes.
Bob's Burgers won a lot of us over sooner or later. Once the show truly figured out what it was, it became this welcomed addition to the Fox cartoons not canceled after 2 seasons or less. In some twisted, fucked up parallel universe, this video is about the Alan Gregory movie. Yeesh.
Fuck would you show me something if I couldn't have it?
Bob and Linda have to come up with a lump sum of money in 7 days, or else the bank will repo all of their restaurant equipment. And them trying to get the bread together just gets even harder when a big ass fucking hole just opens up right in front of their crib. That's all I really want to say about just the story of the movie. I honestly feel like it's cooler if you go in knowing less and you get to experience the story through the characters' eyes. I actually got to see this movie early, about like 2 weeks early. Actually. And I've just been kind of bottling up how I feel about it this entire time. But now I can finally tell you, I can finally let all you guys know that the Bob's Burgers movie is fucking dope.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
Mechi, whoa.
I had a good time with the Bob's Burgers movie. So good, in fact, that I ended up pulling up again opening night just because I wanted to see it again.
Check him out, y'all. He dick riding. Look, he got the dick all in his mouth. Look, shaboing boing, get the dick out your mouth.
I know when we think of movie crowds now, right? We think of like Sonic 2 or like a Marvel movie or something, like something that's just gonna give you like a big reaction from fans. But this movie reminded me that it ain't nothing like seeing a good comedy in a movie theater, son. I truly feel like my experience was amplified both times by the amount of people around me just cracking the fuck up. You can tell that both times it was a room full of people that just completely understood the show and its sensibilities. But even without a crowd, I still think the movie's hilarious. If you love the humor of the series, you're right at home here. Similar to something like the Simpsons movie, they give everybody in the family something to do. Everybody has their own thematic thread that just hangs over their heads throughout the entire film, and it's nice to watch them all unfold. I think out of everybody, Gene's story might be the weakest, only because it seems like it doesn't get as much attention as like Tina, Bob, Linda, Louise, or honestly kinda even Teddy to a certain extent. Not to give anything away, but he invents something, and since the movie's a musical, right, like my brain just automatically went, oh, they'll use this throughout, definitely. They kind of don't, honestly, but it is what it is. And yes, the movie is kinda a musical, yeah. There's only like 3 songs, but they're good songs. Less songs means less opportunity to fumble the bag on one of them, so I feel the vibes.
Bob's Burgers is on. This show speaks to us young people, apparently.
That show, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, but that show looks like it was animated in a moving car.
This movie looks fucking great. Fuck Family Guy.
I'm sorry, baby. I love you.
I love how this thing looks. When I heard there was going to be a theatrical Bob's Burgers movie, I spent most of that time just trying to mentally work out how these characters will look cinematically. And I think they did a great job. The movie doesn't forego the classic Bob's Burgers characters standing and talking kind of staging for a good chunk of it, but some of this lighting, fucking background designs, these dances, like it's all beautifully animated. It's a real treat to look at, I'll be honest. When's the last time you just seen like a 2D movie in theaters? There's a shot in this movie that got an audible oh shit out of me both times I saw it. It was so fucking terrifying just by the way that it's animated, I promise. And if you've seen this movie, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But I think the best thing about this film is that it's super sweet. Every character's story is just laced with so much heart, so much care. You genuinely feel for them and want the best for them no matter what. Man, how do these reviewing a new movie people do this shit? I feel like I'm just saying words now, man. What the fuck? I'd spoil a movie, but the point of this is because I want y'all to go out and support it. Niggas got me on my Jeremy Johns. I'm sick.
And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.
How is this so hard to find? This nigga don't punch the camera no more. No funny shit, bro. Like, I don't want to like overhype anything or make anyone go in with unnecessarily high expectations or anything, but I've been thinking about this for a while. This might be a 10 out of 10 for me, bro. Like, actually, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I first saw it. I don't know if it's just the novelty of seeing these characters like on the big screen, the long for more movie like this, the idea of the characters that we loved on our TV screens coming to life in a room full of people that grew up with them, the excitement that I feel when one of these comes out. But like, I really do love this movie. I smiled the entire time through my mask, which I still wear everywhere I go because I don't really trust niggas, and it's phenomenal with a crowd. I'm learning that Bob's is just the kind of show that, like, if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you just don't. If you're not a fan of the way the show is written or just like that vibe, I don't really know how much you'd actually enjoy yourself. It might not be an objective 10 out of 10 because I don't think it's perfect. There's a mystery that's a little predictable. Some plot stuff doesn't really get as much attention as I feel like it should, but it's definitely a personal 10 out of 10 because I had a fucking ball. If you want any more talk about this and why I love it, there should be a Cartoons That Curse episode dropping on Monday with me and Johnny talking about it in detail. So many people either went, oh my god, yes, or just went, what the fuck is Cartoons That Curse and who the fuck is Johnny? And honestly, that's a valid question. I don't know who that is. Go out and see it if you can. We need more of these, more movies based on cartoons. We grew up in that era and I think it's time for it to come back. So get out there and show people that we actually want these. Shit, who's getting a movie next? Will it be you?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean, it's my job, right?
First things first.
Hey, you ever accidentally masturbate to young pictures of your mom?
Who the starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
You ever wonder how the careers of your favorite rappers and your favorite cartoons match up?
You lost me with that one. Shit, you lost me with that one.
Of course not. Neither did I until I got this comment on my Family Guy video. So, needing one more sponsored video for June, and being completely stuck on what I should talk about, let's compare the careers of cartoons and rappers.
Ooh wee, look what that money make a bitch do.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
SpongeBob SquarePants, I think, is the animated equivalent to Eminem.
Picture me in a pimp hat.
Really think about it, both are ridiculously popular, arguably the most popular ever. Eminem has 2 fucking diamond albums, which is still crazy as hell to me. Like, he's the highest selling rapper of all time. You could just compare that to all the damn SpongeBob merch. They've both been around forever and have definitely had their highs and lows, where people just constantly debate whether or not they're good. But at the same time, you'd be hard pressed to find a person from a specific era that doesn't look upon them fondly. I wanted to go regular show, but I guess historically, Tyler the Creator's career really reflects Adventure Time. Both started out kind of wild and wacky, but then slowly started to show their artistic side and moving away from that kind of shit without fully completely losing it. Both eventually went in different directions that most fans welcome because the art matured with them, but there's definitely some that ended up falling off. But you can argue that it was for the better because they both ended up being way more acclaimed for their change in trajectory anyway. I thought it'd be cool to look at what a cartoon as the whole Wu-Tang Clan and all the little cartoons that came from it as just the members. That kind of affects the Family Guy Lil Wayne theory, but who cares? I'm not fucking making these niggas the fucking hot boys. Fuck out of here. I got Powerpuff as Method Man since they're the face, the most popular. Then I got Dexter's Lab as Redman since a lot of the time one isn't really brought up without the other. ODB as Cow and Chicken for being the wildest and nastiest in the squad.
Get shot with old dirty insulin. You're bound to catch age or something. Not saying I got it, but nigga, if I got it, you got it. What?
And give me Mike Luanaga as you got, fuck it. I got Lauryn Hill as Clone High because they both only really did one thing. She was almost Mission Hill for a while, I'm gonna be honest. Niggas made like one season and dipped. But at the same time, the love for both is monumental when you really think about how short their run was in comparison to everything else that came out around it. Clone High's coming back, Lauryn Hill's doing features. Kinda just fits. Even though I feel like her and Erica could be as told by Ginger, honestly, just off the vibes alone. Took a minute, but I think I landed on the Boondocks being Tupac. Both were around for a short but impactful time. An impact that we're still feeling today. Both are hailed for what they were trying to communicate more than anything. Both also face criticism for kind of perpetuating the kind of stereotypes that they were commenting on, I guess. Like, there's always constant discussion on whether or not their route of commentary was an effective one. But also, both weren't scared to have fun. Like, they didn't have to be poignant all the time. Boondocks had like Ketchup Freeman, Snake Meter and shit. And always remember, Tupac ain't want to be your man, he wanted to be your nigga, you feel me? Meg is probably some anime that I don't watch. I'll go Tuka and Birdie as City Girls. This comparison just honestly makes me laugh. Both got this like crazy energy that's never really been seen before, but was welcomed with open arms almost immediately. Actually, I don't know if they've seen Tuka and Birdie, but I'm positive that they would like it. With that, let me get Bojack as Kendrick. Both are hailed for being real thought-provoking. Every time they drop, it's always a conversation starter. Talks of them being one of the greatest was damn near immediate, while there were others who loved them, but still wanted to wait and see if they'd actually stick the landing, instead of just getting really hyped out of the gate. But honestly, by now, it's kind of impossible not to put them in that conversation. The Simpsons is Jay-Z. This one's kind of a no-brainer. The influence of both is fucking insane, damn near incomparable to anything else. Both are always brought up in that greatest of all time conversation, never really left out no matter who you ask. And if you ask somebody and they don't say them, that lets you know that you can't trust them. You'd be hard pressed to find a show or an artist not influenced by them, or at least influenced by somebody that was influenced by them. Let's give Nicki Minaj to Bob's Burgers. Dedicated fan base, both started out as kind of the underdog, but consistently proved time and time again that they gotta be in that greatest conversation. They've been constantly good way longer than a lot of other niggas in that conversation, and that alone should be worth recognizing and going to see their movie for. This one's kind of a mess, but MF Doom is Invader Zim. They're both the most popular underrated or underground thing in their category. Both have a very clear impact on people's lives. The niggas that know just know. Although Invader Zim might not scare the hoes away like MF Doom, yeah, pull up to the kickback and play accordion if you want to, bro. Shorty gonna get scared. J. Cole is Rick and Morty. Both rose up and became disgustingly popular to the point where their fan base thinks that you have to be of a certain level of intelligence to truly understand what they're doing and what they're trying to say. When really, my nigga, it's not that deep. Neither one of them is talking about that much shit that we've never seen before. Every single time I see this damn wheel, I'll be ready to throw the hell up. Fuck y'all. They not as big brain as you think, my nigga. Shit. And of course, because of that comment from the beginning, we're gonna round it off as Family Guy being Lil Wayne. One of the more really one-to-one comparisons of this whole thing. I'll just read what Buddy said, to be honest. Very influential and insanely popular, especially around the early and mid 2000s now that I really think about it. Definitely hated by others in the industry and by critics, but considered one of the best ever. Everybody copies their style down to the point where everything just kind of looks like them or has Lil in their name. And fuck this last point because Buddy underneath really got it. They still put out heat and niggas still talk about them crazy. Carter 5 was hard and season 19 is one of the best ever. Fuck you. Jokes aside, thank you to Mr. Badass for this comment. I've had an idea like this in my notes for a while after my homeboy Ali Rocket gave it to me, but this was a great jumping point to actually try it out. If you can think of any that I missed in the comments, please let me know. I think this shit is hilarious. I kept trying to think of something for MC Light, but like I couldn't really wrap my brain around it fast enough. And I thought about making Steven Universe chants because everybody thought they were dope when they started, but after a while, people just started to make fun of how wholesome they were. But then the nigga Hats Off Media suggested Frank Ocean, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around because he's not even a fucking rapper, but whatever, son, man, I don't care. This video's stupid. I should manage my time better next time. Fuck. And don't ask me for the name of this song. My fucking homeboy made it. Mind your damn business.
Get up. You're on my side of the bed. Peter.
We act like we didn't take a lot from The Simpsons. We took a lot from The Simpsons.
Damn it.
I've been doing a lot of thinking recently about what certain shows are about. Not literally, but more thematically. What is in the subtext of a lot of these long-running shows? King of the Hill might be about a family living in Texas, sure, but it's thematically about a man struggling to connect with his son that's growing up in a new generation that he doesn't fully understand and is consistently changing. That's at least an abridged version. My homeboy Johnny talked about it a few times. But I wanted to turn this conversation to a different show, Family Guy. A 1999 Seth MacFarlane cartoon with random cutaways, inconsistent characters, and a 1-year-old having a fucking dog's kids.
Hey, I went by your house the other day. Is your baby pregnant?
What exactly is this cartoon about? A show that, if you ask them niggas, has never won any awards.
Hey, that's no fair. I don't got none of them. 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 I don't got none of them.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
Now, I've always maintained that I think Family Guy is a show about a bunch of performers putting on a show every week. Think Mario, think Mickey, think Looney Tunes. Not only does that explain the inconsistent nature of the characters, but it's showcased to be true multiple times throughout the run, whether it be in an actual episode or how the theme song is just a big Broadway illusion. But if this is true, right, the show that these characters are creating, what's that about? There has to be something going on thematically, right? How could you run for this long without a theme? I think that there are 2 episodes that you can point to that can clearly tell you what Family Guy is about. And I think the coolest thing about those episodes is that they come from the first and last season. These are season 1's I Never Met the Dead Man and season 20's 80s Guy. In I've Never Met the Dead Man, Peter crashes into the town's satellite while teaching Meg how to drive, which knocks out all of the TV in Quahog.
Of course, no one can see this news program, so it doesn't really matter what we say. I think I'll go get drunk and beat up some midgets. How about you, Diane?
Well, Tom, I just plain don't like black people.
Boom, back. Rest in piston, nigga. Fuck out my face.
You guys, we're still on in Boston?
Peter goes nuts after not having TV, and he ultimately learns how to live a life without it. He spends time with his family, goes out more, actively enjoys his life. The episode does end with him falling back in love with television, but notice this character turn. If you take television out of the equation, he's practically just a normal guy. A guy that actually cares about his family and the people around him. Now with 80s guy, right, it still brushes against Peter's obsession with television and movies, primarily from the 80s, but it also challenges what happens not when you take this stuff away from Peter, but when you tell him that it's wrong. Which honestly has been a consistent thread throughout the entire run of the show.
Dad, what are you saying?
I don't like what the world is. I'm white. When's it gonna be our turn?
80s guy is about Peter putting Chris onto some 80s movies after he asks him for like dating advice or something like that, which ultimately leads to him getting into trouble because the movies are fucking nasty, bro. Like real shit. When the last time y'all saw Weird Science?
Hey, brother. What's happening, my main man? Right on.
No, Peter, your 80s nostalgia isn't funny anymore. It's tired and worn out and borderline dangerous. I mean, those old references just don't play the same in today's world. When are you gonna let the 80s go?
And throughout the episode, we see Peter trying to find a different decade to latch onto. Literally any other one that isn't this one. He does everything but stay present in this time. He needs some kind of like old media or old lifestyle, right, to model himself after and latch onto.
You're right, Lois. No matter how hard I try, I'll never find a decade as good as the 80s, like you just said just now.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Because I feel like with the context of both of these episodes and what they're about, and the journey that they take Peter on, it creates a very interesting picture of what Family Guy is truly about thematically. Keep in mind that both of these stories are tied into media that Peter consumes, primarily television. That's why most episodes early on start with them watching television. That's why there's a TV in the logo. While the very first line of the theme song is a fourth wall breaking question about the state of television in general. Family Guy, I think, is a show about a guy that grew up watching television at a very specific time. And the same man uses the same values and lessons and tones of these very same shows that he grew up idolizing and tries to apply them in present day while raising his family. But he doesn't take into account that times change, things move on, values evolve and normally are challenged, and life just doesn't always work like how you see it on TV. And sometimes the things we grew up with were just wrong. Archie Bunker was always dead wrong. We've culturally moved past thinking the Fonz is cool. Love the Honeymooners to death, right? But I will never be cool with the fact that this nigga threatening to beat his wife was just a running gag.
To the moon, Lois!
To the moon? What does that mean?
You know, to the moon.
Okay, you're threatening to punch me so hard I'm gonna fly to the moon? Like it's funny to hit me so violently my body will fly out of the atmosphere.
Well, it's not funny anymore.
What happens when Peter cuts TV out of his life? He spends time with his family, he actually becomes a father. Suddenly, his judgment isn't so clouded and he can see everything that's right in front of him. It's almost as if he's like what people think television does to the youth.
Just because you stop being crazy about one decade doesn't mean you have to be crazy about another. How about you just be a normal human being for once, huh? Just be a husband to your wife, be a father to your children.
But Peter is also nostalgic. He's so stuck in the past values that he was taught through TV because that's all he's ever had to make sense of the world. When these values are challenged, he doesn't understand how to deal with it or why they're even wrong. And while I think the show doesn't always tell him why they're wrong, it definitely tells the audience. I guess in a way too, the theme song is literally Peter's plight. I used to think it was kind of like an irony thing. The idea of being upset with all the violence in movies and sex on TV while showcasing both of them. And to be honest, it could still be that. But just off the first line, it's Peter and Lois asking, why aren't things like they used to be? Where did all of the old school TV dads go? What happened to all of the values that we grew up on? Well, lucky for us, there's somebody who still lives by those values. I think Family Guy is saying that a lot of the values that we grew up on are really toxic and when applied to your actual family would not fly. It would lead to chaos, similar to the chaotic nature of how he treats his children, his wife, and just this cartoon in general. It's a show about what happens when you turn to television or movies for your lessons instead of living your life, adapting and learning from your experiences. It's about what happens when you're overly nostalgic and not present. What happens when you rely on television for good old-fashioned values. I swear, I don't be like doing these videos as a way to kind of like talk y'all into liking Family Guy, no shit like that, but I don't know. I just think that this shit is cool. How something you wouldn't think had all of this subtext going on consistently had it for 20 years.
Oh my God, Chris is out of control.
I know. Must be all the violence in movies and sex on TV.
Oh.
See, I listen.
Or it could just be a fucking stupid cartoon, man. Fuck out. Yeah, think what you want, nigga. I don't give a fuck. You already watched the video, biatch.
So what's it gonna be, him or me?
Who cares what Flanders did? He's not your father.
I wish he was.
You don't mean that. You worship me.
Oh, yeah? Look what I did to your picture. Look at it. Howdy doodly. Howdy doodly. Howdy doodly.
You little... You strangle you.
Let's block. Gang. Boom, 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 boom. Let's block. Let's block. Let's block.
Who would have thought? Who would have damn thought? Wait, are we over 30 seconds yet? Who would have fucking thought? Shit, don't make no difference to me, bro. Shit, Family got mad easy to talk about. Throughout the course of the run, relationships in Family Guy hasn't necessarily been something that they put a lot of stock into. And like, I get it though. Like, initially I get it. Like, the show likes to play around, it likes to stretch things, it likes to throw its characters in different scenarios or whatever. And as a result, some things aren't consistent. Some things just don't hold up when you pair them against each other or whatever. But some things are true most of the time, right? Quagmire hates Brian most of the time. Stewie loves Rupert most of the time. And Stewie and Brian are friends most of the time. But let's take that a little deeper. What if I told you that Brian and Stewie are not only best friends as presented in the show, but Brian almost acts as his father? Nah, this ain't some kind of crack theory about how Brian fucked Lois and had a fucking seed or whatever. That should be gross. I'm not doing that up here. But I think it'd be interesting to sit back and analyze how for the past 20 years, Stewie's actual parent was Brian.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
Talking about Family Guy characters on the internet is really hard because it's like everybody has their minds made up before you could even open your damn mouth. I personally think that a lot of you niggas just get really caught up in trying to look at these characters as actual people in real life instead of just like stupid, mean cartoon characters like you're supposed to, but whatever.
Jerome, can you tell that piece of shit asshole to fucking get the hell out of here before I fucking kick him in the face?
I already know I'm about to get 10 paragraph long comments that I'm not gonna fucking read just off that sentence alone. But I do think that analyzing the few consistent aspects of this show is very interesting, and Stewie and Brian's relationship is one of those things. Over time, I started to realize that Brian spends more time with Peter and Lois's son than they do, to the point where they've gone to different countries together, going back in time. This nigga got shot.
Ah, Stewie!
And they don't even seem to fucking notice. Not only that, but I go as far as to say that Brian is the only character that has Stewie's best interest at heart most of the time. And before you start too, like, I'm well aware of the fact that there's episodes where this isn't exactly like consistent and he's just like an asshole to Stewie. And I am extremely aware of the fact that this is just a wild thing to conceptualize with Brian in general, since this nigga got a whole fucking kid that he actively avoids. I ain't seen this nigga Dylan in like 6 years on bro.
I actually have a kid.
Oh, that's sweet. How old is he?
I don't know. How long ago was Ratatouille?
But I do think that what I am actually going to talk about has a very visible and clear pattern that's worth bringing up. A few months ago, right, I remember rewatching season 14's The Peanut Butter Kid. And it's really what started this thought process. I even tweeted about it. Peter and Lois want to stack some more bread for Stewie's college fund, which ends up with them getting him some acting gigs. Not before long, they forget about all that college shit and start spending the bread on like bad bullshit. They got this nigga drinking Molly milk just so he could keep the energy up because they working him so hard.
Whoa, mama, there's a kick like a mule. Who will buy this wonderful morning? Such a sky you never did see.
There he is.
And who is it that tells them that they shouldn't do this to him and just let him be a baby? Brian.
I mean, the world of child acting can be a pretty bad environment for a kid.
Maybe we should just let Stewie's childhood be about being a child.
Wasn't your kid an actor, you jagoff?
Didn't your father hate your guts and die?
Peter and Lois, Stewie's actual parents, lose sight of the fact that not only are they overworking their fucking 1-year-old, but that they weren't even saving the bread that they should be using for his college fund. And most of the episode is Brian yelling at them, trying to tell them that they're wrong. Also in season 14, there's this episode, a lot going on upstairs. If you thought we was about to just have one episode example, you got me chopped and screwed, nigga. In this one, Stewie starts to have these crazy ass nightmares with this big ass, wild ass monster. So he builds a machine that Brian can use to go inside his dreams in order to stop everything.
That's right, Brian. I want you to come inside me while I'm asleep.
Don't say it like that.
And Lois, I guess, locks Peter and him in the attic or something like that. When Brian goes in and actually kills the monster, we see that it was actually just him. But why though? Is Stewie like scared of this nigga? Well, no. We actually find out that Stewie is really worried about letting Brian down because, well, shit, he practically just says my fucking thesis. And he just say I'm dragging it now, goofies.
You've been more of a father figure to me than the fat man ever has been or ever will be. Look, I know I'm always busting your balls, but it's just because you're the only person in this house whose judgment actually matters to me.
Wow. Thanks, Stewie.
The episode actually starts with making this Peter and Lois's issue too. Like they have a chance to be actual parents.
I think they've got this thing backwards.
Stewie can't sleep, so the first place that he goes is to his parents. But they don't fucking do anything. In fact, one of them fucking leaves because he can't sleep. I think it's also important to understand and acknowledge that Brian is one of the only people in the family that always has and always could understand Stewie, Chris being a second.
Why are you so negative all the time?
What? I don't know. What?
It's cool, they actually set this up in the first season.
The devil are you talking about?
It's your birthday, dude!
And here's a bonus clip of Lois understanding Stewie just because this scene will never not fucking confuse me.
Bye-bye, Stewie. Mommy will be upstairs to kiss you goodnight.
Burn in hell!
Hell. Hell has fire. I agree with Stewie.
Brian understands Stewie more than anyone else can, and I think he knows this. And I think Stewie does too. And because of this, I think Brian takes it upon himself to listen to Stewie and cater to his needs as he's growing up. And plus, I mean, like, look, right? They joke about Brian's intelligence as he becomes more and more pretentious, but he is the closest that Stewie has to an intellectual equal. Like, you can't even talk about something like this without bringing up this scene from season 8's classic Brian and Stewie.
You're my only friend, Brian. If I didn't have you, I'd be lost.
You'd be okay.
No, I wouldn't. I don't really care for anybody else, just you. You're the only one I like.
Despite how inconsistent this cartoon can be, there are more examples of Brian and Stewie caring about each other than them fucking each other over. In the true context of Family Guy, or at least the one that I'm actively willing to count to make my very next point work, Peter found Brian on the street not too long before the start of the series. At least maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe, I don't know. But regardless of how much time it was, Stewie is the only Griffin kid that Brian actually saw grow up. He's the only birth that Brian was around for. He's the only first steps, first word that Brian saw with his own 2 eyes. Brian and Stewie's connection is because they both are the newest additions to the family. And I think because of this, Brian takes it upon himself to make sure that Stewie is okay. Sometimes I'm well aware that this shit isn't carved in the stone, y'all. The show is fucking stupid. Alright, didn't this nigga give him herpes or something?
Yeah, but you know.
But I do think that is really sweet that these 2 characters share that in common, and because of it, they're always there for each other when it truly counts. When you live in a family that's just full of people that don't understand you, it's always nice to have that one person who does. The one person who actually hears you, who gets you on a level that no one else does, who'll jump to your defense no matter what. And what better 2 characters to explore that kind of relationship with than a boy and his dog?
Why are you winking at our baby, you creep? God, that's weird. I don't want to ever see that happen again.
We drove 2,000 miles for this.
Looks like it's gonna be a great day today to get some fresh air like a stray on a straightaway.
I know, I'm not usually the type to talk about King of the Hill. My do-rag ain't shady and I damn sure don't got 2 instruments. But I def love this show, for real. Easily in my top 5 animated series. On a good day, you can catch me saying that I like it more than The Simpsons. I think, at least when I was a kid, a lot of us kind of found it boring or whatever, but when you actually know the characters, it's one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen.
Johnny!
I've been seeing this thought process my whole life, that King of the Hill is an animated series that doesn't need to be animated. And I've never really liked that because I don't think I've ever really knew what it meant. When does something need to be animated? When does something need to be in live action? Or do you actually need a reason to be animated? Let's talk about it.
What happened to that Boondocks video?
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
Okay, so let's think about some of the reasons why someone would even wonder why King of the Hill is animated, because there's definitely a few interesting points to this argument. I think the more obvious one being the characters' designs. King of the Hill, especially in comparison to his contemporaries, has an extremely realistic art style. Characters have real proportions, body types, facial structures. There's no exaggeration, no bug eyes, no yellow skin. Look at these fucking dogs. Ah, come on, all right, guess which one's racist?
Oh, good doggy! Good doggy!
Come on, man, come on. See on Big Bernie Mac?
Nasty bitch.
Look at Hank yelling, and look at Homer yelling. One of these is clearly trying to be more like a person. In real life, there's the rules that the show follows as well, right? Aside from wild shit like Bill not dying when a fucking tank explodes, I think you have a pretty hard time finding a bunch of shit that happens in King of the Hill that isn't grounded strictly in reality. The characters don't age often, but they also don't fly. They don't get abducted by aliens. They can't die and come back in the very next scene. King of the Hill spends most of its run making us believe that this takes place in the exact same world that we live in. The rules they follow are really strict. I think too, on the animation side of things, that a lot of this has to do with the staging as well. King of the Hill was, at least from like an outsider looking in, directed like it was a live action sitcom. Aside from some dream sequences or whatever, it really felt like you couldn't do a shot that couldn't be done in real life. Every shot in a room looks like it was filmed in an area where you can easily fit a camera into. And I don't think this is the only show that's like this. You can make the same argument for most of As Told by Ginger or Recess or... Oh, don't start, bro. I'ma fuck y'all up. Why are these shows that don't do anything utilizing a medium where you can do everything? Arnold can't have a football-shaped head anymore if it's not a cartoon, but you could do Helga on the Couch shot for shot in live action, to be honest. All you need is a little blonde white girl with a unibrow. So, why draw it? So if King of the Hill isn't animated, you lose Hank. You lose the very specific way that he looks, his demeanor. If it's not animated, you lose the ability to tell a story about Bobby being into late 90s boy bands and Grand Theft Auto in the same series. If it's not animated, you lose the look on Hank's face when he thinks that he lost his friend. You lose the twinkle in Luann's eye when her and Buckley jump up and down on the trampoline one last time. If it's not animated, you lose Pamela Alden as Bobby. You lose Brittany Murphy as Early Joseph. You lose Toby Huss as Khan. You know what? Never mind. Okay, no, maybe that's not a bad thing. All of these things that just bleed out the identity of the show. Just because these characters feel like real people does not mean that they are. And I think King of the Hill 2 has a very specific vibe that you just can't recreate in live action. I think that the way a show is written isn't the only thing that gives it its identity, it's the way that it looks too. The vibe you get from the hand-painted backgrounds in Hey Arnold, the silence, the atmosphere. You can try in live action, but it just won't be the same. And honestly, bruh, like all jokes aside, I know a lot of people don't like the As Told by Ginger designs at first glance, but I promise you, I would not want this show to look any other way. That's a talk point I got from my homie. I think King of the Hill is animated a very specific way. The eyes, the deadpan stares, the quirks in the facial expressions, the staging, the blocking, just Arlen in general. It's all enhanced through the power of the medium. At least I think so. So I guess to answer the question, right, King of the Hill is animated because it can be. And acting as if it needs a reason to be does a very, very clear disservice to what the medium can do. Just because you can make animals talk in animation or make a character's skin yellow or kill off characters and then make them come right back does not mean that you have to. You can do all of that stuff, but you can also not do any of it. I think with a medium like animation, we should encourage the diversity in story and styles that we get, because that's what's so cool about it. You can do Victorious as a cartoon, but you can't make Ed, Edd n Eddy a live action sitcom. crunchy ass picture.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
Instead of questioning why is something like Undone animated if all they're gonna do is rotoscope, I think we should just accept that this is the medium that they wanted to go with. Nothing ever needs a reason to be animated. It can have one, but it doesn't need one. I personally think it's great that we live in a world where we can have Lloyd in Space, Gumball, some anime that I don't watch or whatever, and King of the Hill, and they can all be different and they can all be animated. It only shows growth and variety. It shows that the medium can handle any story. Because despite what it looks like they trying to tell y'all, this shit ain't going nowhere. So we might as well use it to stand out. I'll tell you what.
Guess what? You and I are getting married.
All right! Lisa, that's wonderful. If only your father was still with us. But he left for work a few minutes ago.
Alright, I'm gonna make this one quick. I've watched Steven Universe from almost the beginning. I remember when the pilot came out, I fucked with that.
This clown is gonna save your lives.
I remember watching episodes here and there, but I wouldn't necessarily say I was following it at first. I don't know what the hell I thought it was gonna be, but definitely not what it fucked around and became. Anybody who knows me knows that lore heavy shit just really isn't my bop. But there was something different about this one. The way it looked, the way it handled emotion, it really spoke to me while it was airing. And the nigga was definitely crying some sick ass, nasty ass, hot ass Viola Davis tears when it ended, that's for sure.
I gave 18 years of my life to stand in the same spot as you.
I think one thing that's different about this show, at least from any of the other shows that I've seen or have been a fan of, is that I can literally pinpoint the very second that I fell in love with it. And if I'm being honest, without a doubt, it was season 1, episode 45, Rose the Scabbard. 45? That's a nasty ass episode order, holy shit. Get ready to cry in the club, gangster. This is your warning, just let you know. This is what Steven Universe taught me about grief. Isn't there like normally like a little intro thing? No? Shit, alright. Guess not this time, whatever. Alright, so Rose the Scabbard. Ah, come on, bruh.
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
Rose the Scabbard deals with the loss of Rose. Hey Ian. So for anybody who hasn't seen the show for whatever reason, even though this is a wild video for you to watch if you haven't, but whatever, I digress. For the sake of simplicity, let's just say that Steven's mom, Rose, passed away.
Sometimes you look so much like her.
Really? Oh my god.
They find Rose the Scabbard and trying to find her sword to put in it. This episode really hammers in how Pearl feels about Rose. You can see it in the way her face lights up when she talks about her, and how ecstatic she is when Steven even asks.
Man, I wish I could have seen it.
No, you don't. Countless gems were broken here. It was a maelstrom of destruction and death.
But we won!
Millions of people dead.
Not me though, nigga. My shorty had that shit on lock, nigga. The fuck you talking about?
Wouldn't let that shit happen to me though.
Like, golly, just give Shorty a kiss or something, and then get banned in multiple countries for it. Gotta do it. Pearl spends a lot of time showing Steven things about Rose that she feels like he doesn't know, not knowing that he discovered a lot of this shit on his own throughout the series at this point. Even shit she didn't even know was possible to access. Even shit she didn't even know that she did, that she hid, like her sword in The Lion. Pearl, completely distraught that Rose could possibly do something to have something going on without her knowing about it, lashes out on everyone.
You can't understand how I feel. None of you had what we had.
She probably just wanted to protect you like everyone else.
What do you know? You've never even met her.
She runs off and Steven goes to find her. This nigga gotta hawk her down, this poor traumatized kid.
Wait, no, bro, no, wait, no!
Pearl seeing the projection of Rose and talking to her and talking for her is really fucking rough.
I'm going to stay and fight for this planet. You don't have to do this with me. Please, please understand. If we lose, we'll be killed. And if we win, we can never go home. Why would I ever want to go home if you're here? My Pearl, You're wonderful.
I think Pearl really hung on to the fact that even though she was gone, she knew things about Rose that no one else did. Like, that's one thing that she found comfort in. And when that's put into question, it really strikes a nerve. But I think that's evergreen too. When people pass away, there's so much more to learn about them. So many personal stories to hear, belongings to find. Nobody ever really leaves. There's consistently something new. It's a very specific thing that I don't know if I've ever seen talked about in the same way. But like, alright, is that it though? Is that the reason I love this episode so much? Is that the reason that I did this video? Well, not exactly. I think the episode is drop dead gorgeous. These backgrounds, the music, for sure. These expressions, oh man, do I love these expressions. Look at some of this shit. I always really loved how this show showcased characters having really strong, intense emotion. But yeah, that's not even it. It's a little more personal than that, to be honest. On January 2nd, 2015, my grandmother passed away. If you've been following this channel for a while, it's definitely a story that I've told before, but that's because it's so crucial to my growth. My grandmother taught me how to draw, man. I would not be here without her. I can promise you that. You guys thank me all the time for these videos, but I promise y'all ought to be thanking her. Whenever the person who's done everything leaves, who's shown you everything, it's almost impossible to figure out what to possibly do next. I honestly had no idea how I was gonna deal with any of it, bro. That was like my first real loss. Her funeral was on the 9th, but on March 9th, Rosa Scabbard came out. And I got to sit there and watch a cartoon explain to me my emotions in a way that I had never contextualized them before. At this point, I definitely liked Steven Universe, definitely enough for me to watch new episodes when they aired, but this was the day right here that I fell in love with it. Long story less long, it was this line right here that changed my life.
Everything I ever did, I did for her. Now she's gone. But I'm still here. What would she think of me now?
Well, I think you're pretty great.
Steven Universe did a lot of things for a lot of people. Regardless of how you feel about it, I really personally don't really care. But you cannot deny the impact that this show has had on so many lives. People talk about the representation and stuff like that, which is all really like super important, gratifying stuff, and I'll never take away from that. But I feel like I don't see much discussion on how perfect this show was at tackling the concept of loss. That's why this show will always be important to me, man. Like, I'm serious. I felt I did everything with my grandmother, similar to how obsessive Pearl is throughout the episode. Repeatedly pounding in that when she was around Rose, it was almost like one didn't do anything without the other. It's not the same at all. It's not the same dynamic, you feel me? But I felt that. And listen, I don't know. I think after hearing just a sea of people tell me that it'll get better eventually, or that she's not in pain anymore, all kinds of stuff, because people never really know what to say, right? But this cartoon, man, it hurt me somehow. Honestly, man, it was just really, really nice that after everything that I had been through and that I had felt, to have something sit me down and say, fam, this shit hurts. But people love you. And that's okay. That's okay.
Peter, wake up. You're having a nightmare.
Oh, Lois. Thank God it was just a dream.
Hey, Lois, what's that fat man doing in our bed? Damn it. I always wake up before I find out if they can understand the baby.
Family Guy, Baby, Stewie Griffin. Who can understand him? Who can't understand him? Let's find out. I'm sick of writing these intros to these videos. If you clicked on this, you already know what the fuck Family Guy is, so here.
Let's go, go, go!
ToonrificTariq, Loosies.
On On the subject of who can understand Stewie, let's break it up into 3 different categories: always, sometimes, and never. And with the show as inconsistent as Family Guy is, you can already tell which one has the most characters. For the sake of simplicity, let's not include children characters. If there's a toddler, they can more than likely understand Stewie because he's more than likely the only character that actually interacts with them anyway. If you have to question if Doug can understand Stewie, you just don't know who Doug is. And honestly, neither do I. This nigga just kind of showed up one day, bruh. Also, I think it's safe to say that we should leave the Stewie Kills Lois 2-parter out of this discussion because, spoiler alert for a fucking 15-year-old episode of television, but that episode is entirely a simulation and didn't actually happen. I also understand that this is just a stupid, silly cartoon and it's not that serious, nor do the writers actually care about any of this. I'm just doing this because I can, and if you have an issue with that, you the one that clicked on the thumbnail, bruh. I don't really know what to tell you. You just gotta do some like soul searching or some shit. Let's get the always characters out the way. The obvious one being Brian. Whoa, that's ahoy. Brian and Stewie's relationship is arguably the most important in the entire show, and it's all based on their back and forth, their banter. If you want to hear more about their connection, check out this video that I did on them. I'll talk about Family Guy a lot up here, partially because I have no self-control. Then there's Chris. Stewie and Chris is a duo that the show focused on a lot more recently, but I think people only casually familiar with the show don't even realize that it's an actual thing. I didn't realize it at first, but they actually set them up understanding each other as early as the 3rd episode.
Hey, Stinky, have we got some big plans for you?
Plans? The devil are you talking about?
It's your birthday, dude!
And in recent years, there's been full episodes where the two of them have interacted, had adventures. It's nice. Stewie, Chris, and Brian just kind of have their own little squad going on. And whoever the hell Eric is.
You know who would love this? Eric.
Oh, yeah, this is right up Eric's alley.
The sometimes is where I think it starts to get really interesting. Early on when Stewie would talk, the family would like look at him and everything, but as the years go on, they barely even flinch. Just because they look at him though doesn't mean that they actually understand what he's saying. They could just be hearing goo goo gaga shit every time he peels his lips open. You never really know. So it is proven on multiple occasions that Peter can understand Stewie, but only to a certain degree. If you ask me, I'd say that this starts as early as Brian and Love in season 2. Fam, this clip was impossible to find because I don't think anyone remembers it.
Hey, I ought to just give you some beer. It goes right through you.
Wonderful, and while we're at it, we can light up a doobie and watch porn.
Yeah?
Like, notice how he very clearly heard all of that. In the courtship of Stewie's father from season 4, the two spend the entire episode together, and that understanding bits and pieces thing really tracks here. He can tell Stewie's highs and lows and his emotions, and he responds to them, but not directly to anything that he's saying for the most part. But then there's moments like this one where Peter directly answers a question that Stewie asks.
You think he's dead?
Nah, he'll be back on his feet in no time. Probably following Jonathan Dolgen's footsteps, wind up with a pod deal over a touchstone.
But the most important thing about this aspect, I think, is that it's actually said by Peter himself multiple times. They have this conversation in Dead Dog Walking.
You're such a bitch.
She's a bitch. Meg, you said you wouldn't tell Stewie's secret.
Stewie, you told Dad?
I had to get it off my chest. I didn't think he'd understand me.
I understand pieces now and then.
And he says this in Inside Family Guy.
But I know now that I'm nothing without all of you.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Thank you, Stewie, who I can understand.
Which is like barely canon, but whatever. In just last week's season 21 episode, Peter goes looking for Chris and walks in on Stewie, and they have a quick back and forth.
Yeah, Pop, what's up?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think really the hardest one to crack the code on is Lois, Stewie's mom.
Lois!
Lois!
Lois! Lois! Lois! Lois! Mom! 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 Mommy! 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 Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
To my knowledge, or at least to my recent memory, Lois understands Stewie word for word a total of 2 times throughout the entire series. That's this clip from Mind Over Murder, a season 1 episode where she responds to him telling her to burn in hell.
Bye-bye, Stewie. Mommy will be upstairs to kiss you goodnight.
Burn in hell!
Hell. Hell has fire.
And there's this bit from the family history episode that gets shared on Twitter all the time, where Peter tells the family that he doesn't like The Godfather.
You know, I can't even get through. I can't even finish the movie. I've never even seen the ending.
You've never seen the ending?
Well, how can you say you don't like it if you haven't even given it a chance?
I agree with Stewie. It's not really fair.
I think early on, Lois could at least understand Stewie's mood.
Bend down, Mother.
Yes, honey.
Kind of like what I was saying about Peter earlier. If he was upset, she could tell that he's upset. If he's happy, she can tell that he's happy. But lately, it just kind of seems like all of that just kind of falls on deaf ears.
I need to show them that I deserve to be Customer of the Week.
You don't.
Well, they probably see a woman like me and think, she's got it all.
They don't.
There's also the theory that the family could always hear Stewie, that they just choose to ignore him, but I don't think that I like this one. This nigga be coming a little too crazy for it to be like, oh, that's just baby talk thing. Nigga saying Seth said it, but what the fuck does he know? He ain't been in a writer's room since 2011. Go read a book or something. And here's a quick lightning round of miscellaneous characters. When Stewie and Brian travel back in time with Mort in season 7, he can understand him the entire time.
Whatever. Damn it, will you two just get in the fucking time machine?
But they rarely even glance at each other throughout the rest of the series after this. Stewie tells both Joe and Cleveland that their outfits don't work, but again, only once. Loretta tells Stewie to his face that she barely understands the gist of what he's saying.
Really? Isn't she one of those people outside the family who can understand me?
No, I think because of Cleveland, she's close enough to the main cast that it might be a little weird.
Really?
We're filming. Well, I get the gist of what you're saying, Stewie.
In season 5, Brian and Stewie get in Adam West's car and ask him to follow a truck. But this one's a little tricky because they both say it at the same time.
Follow that truck! Didn't you hear me? I said follow that truck!
Oh, I heard you. What I didn't hear was please.
Please follow the truck!
And in season 16's Send in Stewie Please, Stewie has a full-on in-school therapist that understands everything he says easily.
This is my real voice.
So then we finally move on to the Never characters. I think the only immediate Griffin family member that has never been able to hear Stewie once in the entire 21 seasons of the show's run is Meg. There are Meg and Stewie episodes, and there are Meg and Stewie moments with them together for sure. But as far as I know, she understands that Stewie can do all of these extravagant things, like go back in time or save her from human trafficking, long story. But I think she just hears baby talk when he speaks.
No, don't leave me on the phone with her!
Stewie?
Hey, how's school?
Hi, Stewie.
Never have these two had one real actual conversation or a regular natural back and forth. I've seen Lego My Mego be referenced in this conversation before, like just through my research, but Meg actually never talks to Stewie in that.
Stewie?
Hi, Meg.
I know I referenced Cleveland and Joe earlier in the lightning round, but honestly, those could just be seen as quick jokes. I don't think anything else tracks to lead you to believe that these characters can understand this baby. I've been kind of thinking that unless it's just for like a quick gag like those, for the most part, if there's an adult that's close to Peter or Lois, they just can't understand Stewie. That includes other family members like Carter and Babs. However, someone like Elle, who's practically created as a Stewie-centric character at first, and has only recently been seen hanging out with Lois and the girls.
Tell us, after you had dinner, how was the pork?
Who is this bitch?
Can still understand them as far as I know. In season 21, Quagmire and Stewie spend the entire episode together and Quagmire does not understand him once. There's even been times that Brian and Stewie are on screen having a conversation with Quagmire, but it is very, very clear that only Brian is heard. And I think that's just how they're gonna keep it, to be honest. The season 19 premiere is titled Stewie's First Word, and it kinda insinuates that the show kinda operates on this Rugrats logic, that eventually Stewie will be heard, but it has to be through his sheer passion and emotion. In the second Rugrats movie, it's because Chucky really doesn't want his daddy to marry his French lady. And in Family Guy, it's because he can't have cookies in church.
I agree with Stewie.
This is the explanation they gave.
Why did everyone suddenly understand you now?
I don't know. I was feeling so much intense emotion in the moment, and that one word somehow just burst through.
So I guess now every Griffin can understand Stewie if he either says fuck or mommy, or at least whenever he means those things. I don't know, man, who cares? None of this really matters, like, at the end of the day. I think Family Guy is funny because none of this stuff is actually consistent, and they use it to mold these fun character relationships. Is Stewie being passive aggressive to Lois just as funny if she could actually hear him? Fuck no. Does a story about Chris and Stewie and Rupert function properly if Chris can't hear him? Of course not. I think it's cool that this show has been on long enough to the point where people just kinda stop caring to figure this out and they could just sit back and let the show steer the ship. It's not perfect, but honestly, if that's what you're looking for, you've definitely been watching the wrong cartoon this entire time.
There is some set of rules about it. Brian obviously understands them. We go out of our way to make sure that Lois or Peter doesn't. Sometimes if he's outside the house, strangers that we're going to see for one episode and maybe not come back to, we'll make the allowance.
Within the family, there, it's like we made sort of a leap with Chris this year that, all right, well, Chris, he can interact with Chris in a real way. He can't really interact with Meg or Peter or Lois because the idea is that they're old enough that there is a separation. Once you get out of the house, as Steve says, it really depends on the story. If it's funnier for the story that there be a language barrier, great. If it's better for somebody to understand them so there can be interaction, that's great too. And it's there is room for messing with the rules if it suits the comedy.
Oh, Peter, isn't he amazing?
Is he smart? Or is he like me?
He's perfect.
You guys heard the baby talking in there, didn't you?
Chris, that's ridiculous.